was again. He knew this must be some kind of prophetic truth, masked in coincidence, certainly, but couldn't be. No, these were not imagined patterns, the mind seeking to connect accidental dots with blurred lines. This was something real, something elegant in its simplicity, yet dangerous in its enigmatic complexity, undeniable in all its obscured perfection. How could everyone else be so blind? Or were there others who observed this covert conspicuousness, able to untangle this perplexity, understood this cipher that surrounds this key, this 23?
Well, good morning. I'm glad you're here early at DEF CON. This is my first time speaking here, so I'm glad to be here myself, being here with you guys. So let's get on with this. This talk is about Network Security Monitoring 101 for Industrial Control Systems. A little bit about me. My name is Chris Sistrunk. I'm a registered professional engineer. I used to work for a company called Entergy Power Company in the South for about almost 12 years. A SCADA engineer for over 10 years there. I was involved with Project Robust, where I was doing DMP3 protocol fuzzing and some other protocols as well. Now I work at Mandiant as a senior ICS security consultant. Last year at DEF CON, I helped bring the ICS Village here, so we're back again. Real proud about that. And I also run B-Sides Jackson. And I also love network security monitoring. So, what happens when you use Nmap or a fuzzer on an industrial control system? You get fainting goats. So ICS is vulnerable, but why haven't we seen more attacks? Perhaps we're not looking. If your ICS is breached today, would you know about it? Could you tell if it was just commodity malware like Conficker, or was it a targeted attack, or even just a misconfiguration? I'll show you the tools that you need to hunt for evil on your control systems. I'll show you some real-world examples on how to use the tools. And finally, I'll give you some nuggets to take back so you can do this yourself for free, except for your own time. So we have two key reasons why we don't see more of these attacks. We have intent, or the lack of thereof. We just don't have enough ICS breach and attack data to fully understand attackers that target control systems. And the second is visibility. We have a lack of visibility of monitoring control systems. We have lots of monitoring of IT systems, but doing network security monitoring in control systems is generally limited. Let's talk about some of the intent. Since we don't have very much data, like some examples are Maroochy Shire in Australia, Stuxnet, and then lately the German steel plant attack. Why are those targeted attacks different? It's a who, not a what. It's professional, organized, well-funded for the big things. There could be disgruntled employees in another way. If you kick them out, they will return. Just like the shark is a top predator, they'll come back for the seals that don't have very much protection. We don't have visibility. See no evil. There may be someone from IT looking at the enterprise side of the network, but most businesses don't regularly look at traffic patterns and logs in the control system network, even if they're available. ICS network alerts most likely aren't tied into a company's security operations center. So what happens when the FBI shows up at your door? That should not be the way that you detect attacks. I did some research on the publicly known control system vulnerabilities. And from 2001 until 2014, there were 949 known publicly vulnerabilities. 342 of those were exploits, so they made it into Metasploit or GLEG or SCADAVONs, those packs. And then 3 of those were malware, so Stuxnet, Havex, and Black Energy 2. The trend's going up. We're in the age of Stuxnet. After Stuxnet happened, people are starting to look for vulnerabilities in control systems, and the things are there. There's over 1,100 now, at my last count. I'll be doing this, updating this slide later this year. If your ICS gets hacked, you can't make gadgets or water or electricity or hammers or cars or medicine anymore. It's critical to our way of life. So we got to protect it. Now what? We have more government security regulations like NARC-CIP and CFATS. We have ICS security is still lagging behind IT security, just like we have fainting goats. Anytime you scan a device that's in a control system, it just doesn't have the robustness to deal with it. And breaches are inevitable. Today we know this. Attacks aren't stopping. They're happening in every sector, including industrial control systems. Management's asking, could we be hacked? Maybe they are. They should be asking that for control systems. So what can we do to get ahead of this? The answer, I believe, is network security monitoring, or one of the answers. If you don't know what network security monitoring is, it's the collection, analysis, and escalation of indications and warnings to detect and respond to intrusions. This is from The Practice of Network Security Monitoring by Richard Balick, one of the founding fathers of NSM. There's a few others I want to be mentioning here. It was invented in 1990, but it really started, I think, kind of with Cliff Stoll and the Cuckoo's Egg. If you haven't read this book and you're in control systems, go get it and read it. It's very important because the things that they did in 1986 and 1988 and 1990 were still applicable today. Todd Heberlein invented the network security monitor in 1990, and then it transitioned to the Air Force, launched Livermore National Labs, then NetRanger, Real Secure Snort, and others came out, and then the formal definition of network security monitoring came out in 2002 with Richard Balick. NSM has been around for almost 30 years and has a proven track record. Cliff Stoll dug into a 75-cent accounting error and discovered a hacker in their system. First documented case, major case of catching an attacker. Of the 80 systems that the hunter breached, only 2 of those system owners noticed because they weren't looking, and only 2 looked. So how can we look? Before we need to look, we need to have one person to watch and hunt, kind of like Cliff Stoll did. And we also have to have the right tools to collect and analyze the data. David Bianco, security expert in analysis and network security monitoring, says NSM and hunting are 2 sides of the same coin. Let's talk about the NSM cycle. You have the collection phase, the detection phase, and then the analysis, and it just keeps going around and around. To make NSM work, you have to have both sides of the coin. Instrumentation to collect the data from your industrial control system devices and the network, and at least one person to analyze the data to hunt for evil. It requires people and processes, not just technology. A lot of people these days focus on buying the latest blinky thing, right? But we know that humans are really resourceful and they can get around those blinky things. So you have to have a resourceful human on the back end defending your networks. So let's look at the methods of monitoring. We have to have a network tap. If you don't know what a network tap is, it just allows you to physically put a network device to capture all your data. Or you can use a span port off of a router or a switch that will dump all of the packet capture to a device that you're wanting to collect. A sensor will have a host network interface that can also collect this data with like TCP dump or Wireshark or whatever. And then you have a serial port tap, like in the case of the cuckoo's egg, he used printers to print out the 9600 baud traffic or 1200 baud traffic or whatever it was, which still today in many control systems still have serial networks, but now we can use terminal servers that do full packet capture with port mirroring. There's 7 types of network security monitoring data. Full content data, which is unfiltered collection of packets, so it's the entire phone conversation. You have extracted content, so like files, web pages, data streams, firmware. Session data is like the phone call list on your phone bill. So you have who is the originator of the call and for how long, things like that. Transaction data is transmit and receives. Statistical data, you can analyze when the data occurs during the day or when someone logs in at a certain time, and you can do analysis that way. Metadata is who owns this IP address or where other data about data. And then the last is triggers from IDS tools like Snort or Bro. In Richard Baitlick's book, he says that regular IT networks have difficulties for network security monitoring. Encrypted networks, widespread network address translation, devices moving between network segments like mobile devices, extreme traffic volume. So if you're having World of Warcraft traffic blowing up all your bandwidth, or privacy concerns if you have other countries where they don't allow encryption. This is perfect for control systems because we don't have any of that. There's no encryption. It's very static. ICS devices aren't mobile. You just don't have mobile devices really. Substations don't move, and devices within substations don't move. And you have low bandwidth, good old 1200 baud, right? And no privacy concerns since the ICS network is private to that company. Here's an example control system that has segmentation. Some that we encounter in the real world are flat, but this is one that actually has some segmentation. So we have enterprise network up at the top, have a demilitarized zone, DMZ, in the middle, where we might have a historian or a web interface for people on the enterprise network can get to the control system data without actually getting in the control system itself. Then you have the plant and control, where you have your HMIs, your control system servers, your Pi historian, and then the lower levels, the PLCs, the RTUs, the sensors, all of those things. Each control system is different, but this is the model I'm going to use for this talk. In the attack, you have the cyber kill chain. Everybody should be aware of this. You have the attacker comes in, gets in, tries to find out where he can get in deeper, pivot, exfiltrate the data, or do whatever attack he wants to do and get out of there. And a lot of these days, malware's not even used. They're using stolen accounts. So how can we use network security monitoring to look at accounts? It's pretty easy to do, and I'll show you how to do that. If we have attackers attacking our control systems, let's envision some of these goals. Since we don't have a whole lot of data from a lot of these attacks, we can kind of gather some of these same things that happen on IT networks and envision what they might happen on the control system. So let's say he might want to damage equipment. or steal process information, steal a formula of the industrial process of the chemicals and how they're mixed, or cause a safety or compliance issue to cause a plant to shut down. And it actually doesn't affect the actual operation of the plant, just you can't report your emissions to the EPA for some reason. Or let's pivot from a vulnerable control system upstream to the enterprise. That's happened before. So the attacker has to either get physical access or remote access through like a stolen engineering workstation or laptop, or compromise a highly privileged client machine that has access. Let's do some network security monitoring. So we have Mike Asante. If you don't know who he is, he's really important in helping spread the word about control system security. You have to have an inquisitive mind. You need to have network security monitoring collection tools, hunting tools, and then also we got to remember all of our sensors and collection tools can be used by attackers, so we need to protect those too. So what does collection look like in our example control system? We have standard enterprise collectors like syslog and other, just imagine any IT collector or agents or things like that. You could put those in your DMZ, and most DMZ environments could be in a data center, standard equipment. So that's a no-brainer there. You have network sensors that are doing full PCAPs and capturing session data. And if there's a firewall, we can collect the firewall logs. Down in the HMI level, the plant level, and the control level, that's where we have to be a little bit more careful in what we have available to us. We can capture, like most HMIs are on Windows systems, so we can collect those Windows event logs. We can collect SNMP traffic, like percent CPU loading. You shouldn't have a 100% CPU loaded machine. And alerts from any agents that might be installed. And down from the PLCs, they might actually just have logs only. So let's talk about that in relation to hunting. So looking at logs is like looking at tracks in the mud. And you can see the different animals, and you can see the different paths that they're taking. Or you can put up a camera to see where they're walking on your property or wherever you're hunting, for instance, if you like to hunt. What would we look for in an industrial control system? Well, since it's well known and static, we should be able to get a baseline of what's happening. A talks to B, but machine B never talks to C. And then you have your top talkers. You may have a webcam that's looking at the security gate of the power plant, and that's always going all the time, and it's always got a high bandwidth traffic. But then there's some devices that may only report data 2 or 3 times a day to, let's say, an external source. Unexpected connectivity to, say, the internet or business network or an intended connection. You can also look for known malicious IP addresses or domains, or there's known beaconing malware from IT investigations. Logins using default accounts. Many accounts in control systems, you can't change them, and then there's backdoor passwords. So just like Cliff Stoll did, they look for the admin accounts to log in, and just having a warning every time that happened. Unusual events, error messages that could correlate to vulnerabilities, unexpected file and firmware updates. A lot of these things we could easily look for on a control system. In the detection phase of network security monitoring, an analyst should look for these anomalies and try to categorize those and escalate them to incident response. So we'll look at IDS alerts that we've written. So a snort rule that says this payload's being attacking our control system, or log in with the default credentials, high bandwidth that's way larger than normal, devices going on and offline or behaving strangely like they're fainting goats, We need to look for those. Or a door alarm that is coming in when no one's checked into that substation. Going back to the hunting metaphor, we see tracks, but look, we found a wolf track. It's a whole lot bigger than a dog print. And we look in our webcam and we see strange things happening there. Someone's eating all our corn that we're supposed to be feeding to the animals that we're hunting. The last phase is the analysis phase, where we're hunting and finding evil. So this is where we'll see the application, exploitation, third-party connections. So someone may be using ICCP traffic to another control system, and someone's coming in that way. Or someone's doing ICS-specific protocol attacks like DMP3 or Modbus. And that's what we're trying to teach down in the ICS Village. We're teaching you how to do these things, and not only how to use these protocols, but also how to watch on how to defend them. We can also see things like, well, what happened with Stuxnet? It's calling back to strange DNS requests like totalfootball.com or free sexy celebs. Why would you ever see that happening on a control system, you know? So let's look at, this is a really great picture that I found on the internet. Say we're looking at our logs and we see our little bunny rabbit hopping along, and then swoop, the owl comes down and attacks the poor little bunny. And then on our webcam we see that he's flying off with...
What, did I just step into an episode of Wild Kingdom?
Yeah. Welcome to Wild Kingdom. So if you look for anomalies, you might find them. So like, did you know that squirrels attack deer? If you don't look at your control systems, you won't see this kind of crap happening.
I am clearly at the wrong talks. This is awesome.
So let's do some real world examples of network security monitoring using free tools, not a $3 million SIM. Have you ever heard of Security Onion? Anybody? Okay, great. This is for you.
Sorry, may I interrupt?
You sure may.
So, welcome to DEF CON, first day. How many of you are first timers? Shots. What's everybody, come on up. All right, we have a little tradition here at DEF CON. First time speakers.
I don't mention this anywhere in my talk, but cyber, everyone.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
As you were.
All right, as you were. Oh, that was good.
You have to get back to the squirrels and shit.
Jericho keeps telling me about squirrels. He wants my SCADA 0 days. So we look at top talkers with our session data. There's a program that was written called FlowBat by one of my colleagues at work named Chris Sanders. And you can install it on Security Onion. And what it does is I'm an electrical engineer. I used to be a power engineer. Well, I still am. And I'm not a security guy, but I can install this and use this. That's how easy it is to use. So you can see this is a real world packet capture that we got from a control system. And just looking at the session data, we can see web traffic. That's the number one thing. And why is that byte count way higher than the rest? That's a good question to ask if you're doing analysis. Is that someone downloading something, searching for a new Ford truck on the internet to buy while they're, watching the control system? Or is someone exfiltrating data through the web? That's a good question to ask. And we can see other web traffic, NetBIOS, NTP. So you can install Silk and FlowBat in Security Onion to really, there's other tools in Security Onion that do NetFlow, but I really like Silk and FlowBat. Network Miner, you can get it, it's already installed in Security Onion, but you can download it by itself. You can find potential ARP spoofing and many other indicators using Network Miner. You can look at abnormal DNS traffic. So this one has, I don't know if you can see it in the back, but some of the things it says is ivt.ihabit.biz and infosec2.duba.net. What are those going to from my control system to those strange websites? I see also Adobe Flash, so that kind of makes sense. Someone's updating their Flash, which shouldn't be in a control system anyway. That's a bad sign, or a good sign if you're evil. We can also look at it with the other tools in like ELSA and looking at the Bro IDS log. So it's the same thing, same kind of screen. I know it's an eye chart, but you get the idea. You can download the presentation later. Deep packet inspection. Love this one. Malformed Modbus. So I fuzz Modbus on one of my devices at my house in my network, and you can do a filter on Modbus TCP in Wireshark, and then all of a sudden it shows red. It says malformed packet. Well, if you take up the network statistics, it shows 20% of the traffic in Modbus was malformed. So you could probably deduce, even though I've already told you that someone's fuzzing your network, you could figure it out yourself just by looking at the packet captures. Or we can see custom Modbus going on. Wireshark looked at this one and said, there's unknown function code 90. Function code 90 is not normally used in the standard for Modbus, but it just turns out that Schneider Modicon uses function code 90 to do starts and stops and other admin stuff without authentication. And Digital Bond a couple years ago wrote a Metasploit module to exploit this feature, because that's what real attackers do. They exploit features of protocols since they're unauthenticated and unencrypted. So we could detect someone using that Metasploit module, or detect if it's just normal Modicon traffic. There's 3 IDSs available in Security Onion: Bro IDS, Snort, and Suricata. Bro can parse DMP3 and Modbus. The great thing about Bro is it'll detect DMP3 and Modbus and all the other protocols it parses on any port. So if someone's running Modbus on port 80, it would detect that. It's really great. The folks at Urbana-Champaign, Tim Yardley and his folks, they're developing more ICS protocols for Bro. So that's really exciting. I'm really glad to hear that's happening. Snort, they have DMP3 and Modbus preprocessors. Then Emerging Threats has the SCADA rule pack for Snort, and Digital Bond has a quick draw Snort rules available that just recently were updated. Suricata, the folks there, they just unveiled a new DMP3 parser, probably after all the stuff that we've been doing with DMP3. And then they also have the Emerging Threats SCADA rules there as well. So the DMP3 and Modbus are everywhere. And these are free tools that you can look at your control system traffic and look for anomalies. So I did another example here. I fuzzed Modbus and sent some strange things, and I sent some strange things in DMP3. This is the Bro Weird log, and they'd show up there. They also have Modbus and DMP3 logs by themselves. And also it'll show up in ELSA. Squeal is a nice GUI, if you like those. Some people like GUIs, especially the ones that have all the different screens happening, and then the weather map, and then like the golf game going on over here. So you can see in your SOC what's going on. So you can see someone scanning or using Modbus attacks, or you can see standard like Qualys scans going on, or other things. Syslog. Syslog is kind of new in control systems. And I have a RTU from Schweitzer Engineering Labs that just has syslog. And I was so happy to see that. I mean, you see, syslog's been around for a long time. Well, let's start collecting it directly from our devices in the control system. So I set it up, and Bro picked it out of the wire whenever I tried to log in incorrectly. You know, that's what I have highlighted there. Mandiant login attempt failed 3 times. And then it locked me out. So here's some RTUs. If you have control systems these are mainly for the electric sector that I'm aware of. Schweitzer, GE, Novatech, and Cooper, they have syslog enabled in their firmware. And if you have these devices, start collecting syslog, please. And if they don't, if your PLCs or RTs don't have syslog, put it in your procurement language when you buy the darn thing and say, please allow syslog so I can have logs instead of FBI Jesus showing up, knocking on my door, saying you've been breached. Because we've had that happen, you know. If someone calls, we've been breached. Do you have any logs? No. What can we help you with? I mean, there's really not a whole lot we can do to put the picture together. So the logging is seriously important. Security Onion allows you to look at the 7 different data types. And these some of the different tools. TCP dump, Wireshark, Network Miner does full packet capture. Explico, a network miner, will extract content. And that was kind of neat. I was at a power company, and we were getting traffic from them. And so I said to one of the folks that I was working with, I said, go to a website. And then I showed him in Network Miner that he went to that website. And then I saw one of the operators was looking at getting a new Ford truck. So it's neat that you can show them that, hey, I see exactly what's going on. Session data, Bro, Flowbat, transaction data, metadata, Snort, Suricata does alert data. So it's really great tools that Doug Burks and his team at Security Onion have been doing. Just some more examples of some of the GUIs. Some of the NetFlow tools that's really important. That's one of the neatest things that you can do. You can even put Silk on a box. You can put it on a little Raspberry Pi with a big card and just go put it and start collecting NetFlow. That's really important. And you can save NetFlow for a long time as opposed to PCAPs. And go to flowbat.com. You can install Security Onion, install it on Security Onion with just 2 scripts. Really nice features there. So what if we want to install Security Onion in a control system? Well, as an engineer who had control systems, what do? We test it in the lab first, just to see what we can see. And sometimes, if you just go put it in production, we all know what happens there, right? More RAM the better, the bigger hard drive the better. But think about where it's going to go. If it's going to be in the data center, fine, you just go grab the thing with 128 gigs of RAM and go to town. But if you're going to put it in a power plant or in a substation, you're going to have to keep like heat and vibration and chemicals and all these things in mind. And also figure out how you're going to get the packets to that sensor. And also in the proper placement. So there's 2 books, The Practice of Network Security Monitoring and Applied Network Security Monitoring, that shows you all the different places that you can put a sensor. Make sure that you're collecting all the right IP addresses. So if you have NAT going on, then you get the real IP addresses. And also you want to work with the right stakeholders. So if you're a gung-ho IT security person, you need to go get a box of donuts and go get the engineer from automation. You need to go get the vendor who makes the control system. Probably might need to grab a manager somewhere and just have a big meeting with donuts down in the control room and talk about where we're going to put these things, because we're going to start monitoring our control system now. Here's an example of a hardened control system sensor. This is an example from Schweitzer Engineering Labs. This is a 3355. It has 16 gigs of RAM, a terabyte solid-state hard drive. 9600 baud. You can collect a lot of data for a terabyte, okay? And notice it has a huge heatsink, so I pick on Schweitzer. I love them. It's like a George Foreman grill. George loves cooking in the substation with his new line of industrial grills from Schweitzer. Sorry, not sorry. No. No, that's a great tool. And you can just throw it in there, and the new 3560 is the one on the right. It's just this big. And you just throw it in a go bag, and if you got to go to an IR and start collecting packet captures, and it's in a plant or on an oil rig, you can take that with you and it'll work. So let's talk, maybe we should call it security onion for ICSs. Maybe it's security ogre. Onions have layers. Good security has layers. Onions smell bad. Quite often security stinks. Onions make you cry. Poor security can make you cry. Scream and cuss. Welcome to security ogre. If you like references and if you like to go watch YouTube, I recommend go watch the Cuckoo's Egg. If you don't already have the book, that's a great little show. And it opened my eyes to how we can defend our control system networks just by looking at what you have. Because more times than not, an attacker is going to know your network better than you. So let's flip the tables and know our networks better than the attackers. You have the practice of network security monitoring from Richard Balick, applied network security monitoring from Chris Sanders and Jason Smith, NSM Wiki, and securityonion.net. Some takeaways. You can implement network security monitoring in your control system today without impacting your operations, because it's passive. You're not scanning, you're not making your goats fail over and fall over. There are free tools available to help you start looking at ICS and hunting for evil. And the most important part is people. You can have all the alerts and all the gigabytes and all the things, but if you don't have someone there to interpret it, it's not any good. You can analyze the data and understand what's normal and what's not. Remember, adversaries are a who, not a what. So I'm getting close to the end of the talk here. I've got some thanks. If you don't already know about the ICS Village, go see those folks. Those are my brothers and sisters over there. Go play with Modbus. Don't play with Burp Suite, please. It's not going to do you any good. Go play with Modbus and DMP3 and the real protocols. Doug Burks and the Security Onion team, Chris Sanders and Jason Smith, Automate, Richard Balick, Dow Security, Robert Emily, who's also banging the NSM for network, NSM for ICS drum, my folks at Mandy and Dan Scally and Robert Caldwell, and my other ICS peeps. I see a few of you out here in the audience, and I really appreciate you coming to my talk. And I challenge you to go find evil in your control system networks.